Hey there, welcome to day 76 of our Get Your Goals Annual Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. We're focusing on our mental well-being, our mental health for the month of March. And today's topic is a tool that's actually one of my favorite tools. I don't even remember when I first started using it. I think probably in the 1980s when somebody I was studying from, some mentor or coach or guru back in the day, said to do this exercise, and they walked us through what's called the Lifeline exercise. And basically what you do, I'm going to show you my very first graphic representation to share with other people, which is sort of hilarious. But all you do is you take a piece of paper, or this is a double wide cardboard that I took out of, I don't know, some packaging. I also have a life-size 3 by, it's bigger than that, 3 by whatever, 6 or something, fold out one that I used, because what I like to do now is graph all the different areas and aspects of my life on the same chart, so I can just get a quick visual of what are the big events in my life, what are and then I can learn and study them and see how they interact, as well as understand my do some personal growth and development. So what do? What's a lifeline? A lifeline, your lifeline, my lifeline, is just like a timeline. We learned in history class, I think grade school, we learned about timelines. And all it is it's a line drawn on a piece of paper that has key events written on it, right? Whenever you're studying history, especially, we use timelines. But we can do the same thing for our life, and I call it my lifeline. And on my lifeline, all I did is I put the year I was born, 1960. Yes, I am that old, just had a birthday. And then across the line, as the years go by, and I always put a continuing arrow, because it's important that we don't just say, okay, today and end today. We want to continue on into the future, and I think that that's just presupposing that we're going to. So year of your birth or date of your birth, whatever you want to use, and then a straight line, and then on that we plot different we just mark, by plot I mean mark, we mark different events in our life that were important to us, right? I think being born is a pretty important event. I've got things like my sudden cardiac arrest on here, the birth of my children, birth of my grandchildren, because those are significantly positive emotional events. I have my wedding on here, my marriage. I have my divorce on here. I've got jobs that I've won and lost, business successes, businesses that I started and failed, businesses that I started and were successful, different career transitions I've got on here. And I graph, and then I graph the events, right? And I take out the emotion, I take out the thoughts, I take out the physical, I take out all of that, and I just put events on it. And then I go through the timeline. We did it last month for emotional, our emotional well-being, and I plot on there what was my, for this month we're going to do mental well-being. What was my mental state? What was I thinking? What was I, last month it was feeling, this month's what was I thinking? Next month it'll be what was my spirit like, or because I think we're going to do spiritual next month. I have learned, just a confession here, that I do physical well-being the first part of the year for a reason, and I moved them around this year just to try and experiment, and I'm definitely missing that January, February focus on my physical well-being. And that's just me personally, because I have some physical challenges, and I like to make sure I'm having massive continuous improvement and focus on that in the beginning of the year. But this month we're focusing on mental, and I think emotional and mental and spiritual, it's all so interrelated and so critical to who we are. So we just grab those points, and then after we've created the timeline, which you can just use last month's timeline or lifeline, excuse me, and think about each of those events. And where I really learned this was when I started thinking about, after the fact, my sudden cardiac arrest, and I started to think about what I was thinking on a regular basis before that happened to me. And that's where I had the aha and the epiphany that I had a huge impact on creating that in my life. Most people will never take responsibility for hardly anything in their life, and I try to take responsibility for all the crap that's happened in my life, because I think I've created it to challenge myself. Really, it's hard to say and hard to admit, but if I'm honest, the thinking that led up to my sudden cardiac arrest was the worst, most stinking, terrible thinking I had allowed myself to fall into ever in my entire life. And that almost proved to be the end of me. So I'm really a lot more conscientious about what I'm thinking these days than I used to be. And I try to catch myself sooner and sooner and sooner when, like everybody else, I get into that little negative spiral. I might get into a little doubt or worry or fear spiral, right? And as soon as I notice it consciously, I shut it off and I do some different things. And we've talked about a lot of those tools, and we'll continue to throughout this challenge. So what's our action item today? We're going to either pull out our Lifeline that we did last month and add mental on it. I like to just add each of the categories here, and in my bigger one I've got different color coding. It's way too big to show here, or I would show it. That's why I still use this little crazy one that I did in, I think I did this one in 2020. Let me see. I did it in 2020, and then 2021, and then again 2022, now 2023. So that's why I like the arrow to continue. But I just then will go through and I'll look at each of these events and I'll think about what I was thinking. Now, like one of these is on here. I fell over a trike when I was like barely 2 years old. I was running around the house and ripped open my lip and ripped out one of my little baby teeth, and had to have some oral surgery and stuff. But that was like one of the first things I remember as a child that happened to me. It was an accident. Then when I was 3, I cracked my head open. Now, if you start to see some of this, there's a pattern of accidents and illnesses that I have had throughout my lifetime. And I like to think about, what does that say about me? Why did I have those experiences and my sisters didn't, etc. So it just gives us a great tool, and it's a visual tool. I don't know about you, but I'm a very visual person. For being legally blind, being a visual person is an especially interesting challenge. But that's why I like this, because it reminds me of what I'm working on, what I'm working toward. I can learn more about myself with respect to the interrelationship between the different areas and aspects of the life framework, and that my thinking, my beliefs, and my thoughts have a huge impact on all the other areas and aspects of my life. And of course, we'll talk about that in a few days as well, probably more toward the end of the month. So I want to share a couple other things I do. On my graph, when I'm using the same graph or the same Lifeline for all the different areas and aspects of my life, what I do is I graph them according to this up here line would be my ultimate line. So here's just the events listed on like base. And I actually will let myself go negative, like below the line on certain things. My sudden cardiac arrest, I died. So that to me is below the line, right? Being born is the line, so going below the line, dying is going below the line. All right. Any questions about this? Hit me up. Any thoughts? Any beliefs? Any ahas or epiphanies? Share those in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow. Have fun with this. This, I said, is one of my most favorite, powerful tools that each of us can have in our toolbox just by choosing to do it. All right. Have a great day, and I'll be with you tomorrow.